Hi, I'm Jeff Willinger, JWILLIE on Twitter, and I'm thrilled to be here in Prague, Czech Republic at the European SharePoint, Office 365, and Azure conference. And I'm lucky enough to be here today with Jeff Teper, the godfather of SharePoint. How does that make you feel? If someone called me the godfather of something, I'd be like, eek, but people have been calling you that for a while.
It's a little strange. Yeah, it's a team effort. And so the fact that people are so excited about Microsoft technologies, they want to come up and say hello and say I'm the godfather, whatever it takes to, get people jazzed and start a dialogue.
So Prague, I don't know if you've been here before.
First time.
Oh, okay, I know you're a marathon runner as well. That's one thing that we share in common besides the same first name. And I know you told me recently that you run 2 this year.
Yeah.
Berlin and
London before that.
And Prague has got a marathon. I don't know if you knew that.
I did know that. I've taken off a couple more, but I'd love to come back and run here. Looks a little hilly at spots, so I try to look for flat like Berlin and Chicago,
Yes, Chicago is the one that I've run many of. But what I loved about Chicago and New York City is just the people, the crowds are amazing.
London was like that too. 2 million people all
Sort of like the crowds here when they see us coming, they start cheering.
Exactly, I know. It's millions of people lining the street for the European SharePoint conference.
It seems like that, or especially taking the bridge over here, coming over. In fact, when I think about the intelligent intranet, I look at it as a marathon as well. Too many times I think organizations don't spend enough time up front doing that sort of training, if you will, and you just can't expect to, hey, we have the latest and greatest SharePoint and expect there to be engagement. What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's one of the reasons an event like this is so valuable, is that you get not only the perspective from Microsoft, but perspectives from folks like you who've gotten to work directly with so many organizations, and you can come here and you talk to people and you go to sessions and you say, hey, we sound like that kind of company. Because some companies are more out of box, some companies want more custom, some companies have a lot of security requirements, professional services, they've got to silo things by design, whereas others want to be more open. So you come to an event like ESPC and you get to meet a lot of people and figure out what's right for your company.
When you're coming up with new features for the intelligent intranet, is it more than just bots? I mean, what really makes an intranet intelligent? I do believe, and I might be answering the question, each organization is different, but
yeah, there's a couple of things. First, we're trying to be far more out of box for the people who want that than before. That not everybody should have to build an intranet from scratch. And so part of the first step in being an intelligent intranet is if you want it in minutes, we're going to give it to you in minutes. We announced in the last couple weeks the availability of home sites, which is our most out of box yet. But the real intelligence comes in the algorithms that represent what data, what content, what people you see. And so we, as we always have this web part-based experience in SharePoint where you can mix and match and customize. But a lot of those are now driven by AI off the Microsoft Graph, so that based on your profile, interests, peer group who you communicate with, we're serving up interesting articles, applications for you. And so that's really what we mean by intelligent, both high time to value and it's personalized for every user.
Talk to me about the use of chatbots and where you see the future. From what I see, some companies are actually experimenting with an intranet, almost like a Bing page, where it's just a search bar and a chatbot.
Yeah, it's been great to see the experimentation on that. I think there's sort of a couple things. One, at the foundation of having a bot interface is having good search and AI technology. So a year ago, we introduced Microsoft Search, shows up everywhere, including Bing and SharePoint and Edge and the Office apps. So we've got that search foundation. And then people go different routes with bots. One of the things we think it's exciting to do is just integrate them with Microsoft Teams. So just like you're having a conversation with other people inside and outside your organization, you can make a bot that you can ask questions of. And a lot of people are doing some things, including some partners here, where they wire the bots to the search engine. Other people are doing a little more custom conversational AI kinds of things. And so it's interesting to see what people do with it.
How do you see this going? I mean, people are always, what's the future? What's the future? What's next? What's next? I mean, I see that things just, we're baking them slowly.
Yeah.
And then just like Yammer, year of Yammer, we're thrilled. When I say we, I speak for all of them. We are thrilled about Yammer being rebuilt and relaunched, so to speak.
Yeah. One thing we've always tried to do is have things that are on the spectrum from fundamentals, just make the thing work faster, more scalable, et cetera, to innovation that's maybe challenging people's imagination. So I'll give examples on both ends. On the fundamental side, two of the biggest applauses we got this morning were the ability to sync 100 gigabyte files in the system.
Yes.
100 megabytes, we can do 100 gig files. And another one was just being able to come up with a new site for the root of your tenant. So we are doing these things like are very here and now. People give us these feedback, I need that. But then we showed three things in the keynote. Project Cortex, which is AI, SharePoint Spaces, which is 3D mixed reality, and the Fluid Framework, which is a new distributed real-time authoring technology, that those three are out there. And so I hope that what we're conveying to people is that we're a trustworthy partner. We're going to address your feedback on the things you need today, but you can depend on us to embrace some of the latest technologies and innovate in ways that maybe you didn't imagine. So not only do you want a bot-based interface to your intranet, maybe you want a 3D interface where you can navigate through your product lines in 3 dimensions, and SharePoint's going to help you do that. So I think it's fun to be the whole spectrum of
When I was watching you up there today, I'm not just schmoozing you here, you sort of reminded me of a Satya Light, where you did everything.
Very light.
well, you did everything but sort of do the Satya magic that he does on stage. But I was watching you, and I kept on the way you were talking and the messaging that you were doing. It sort of reminded me of him a little bit, where he's talking about the future and really meeting the people where they want to be met, and that's what you're saying.
Yeah, there's a few themes that he's really hit on that we're trying to embrace. One is being very mission focused, starting with the customer. We'll get to the technology in a second, but you have to start with the individual need. And so that's why our mission is to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. Our mission is not to sell technology, it's to empower people. And so starting from there is important. And then really embracing these technologies, AI, 3D, bots, et cetera, in a responsible way where we're here to give our perspective and help. And it was fun in the keynote to do that.
I just posted an article the other day about people that are embracing technology without realizing they're embracing it, everyday technology. And I think that's when adoption really happens, when you just do it without really thinking about it.
Well, that's, one of the reasons you and I are both here is that's what happened with SharePoint. When we released the first version of SharePoint, there were people who said, and there were some IT people who said at the time, why do we need an intranet? And they woke up a year later and had 1,000 SharePoint sites in their organization. Their employees figured it out. They knew they wanted sites for different projects, for customers, for functions, and they didn't want just one completely centralized intranet where you had to go through the committee to get things published. They wanted a more hub and spoke, democratized intranet. And so I think that part of the soul of SharePoint is giving tools to people that empower them in ways that maybe not everybody can predict.
And I noticed that most employees, they don't care. Many of them have a bad connotation with SharePoint, but it's really not SharePoint. It's how it's deployed many times. And we talked earlier about the shiny new thing and how employees and IT directors just give me something and make it work. And they just keep on throwing things against the wall, and they don't really think about, hey, let's take a step back. let's ask the employees, what do you want? What is
Yeah.
going to make you go there?
Yeah, a lot of, this is true in general in tech in the previous era, pre the cloud, that people were often sitting on 10-year-old software that didn't have sufficient computing capacity, wasn't well run. And one of the neat things about the cloud is that you can depend on your provider, including us, but not only us, to run the latest stuff. And so probably the one thing that I try to grab people on and say, you got to do this, is go look at the lookbook, lookbook.microsoft.com.
Love the lookbook.
You get to see what SharePoint really looks like, not what it looked like 10 years ago, because you shouldn't look at, it's funny, you pick up a 10-year-old iPhone or an iPod with a little wheel, it sort of looks like, wow, this is,
Or the BlackBerry.
Yeah, exactly. So all technology needs to evolve, and SharePoint has too, and so we have this lookbook as a way for people to see in seconds that you can get these kind of modern experiences.
That's really how I built my career, is making SharePoint not look like SharePoint.
But now it looks great, and you should make it look like SharePoint.
Exactly. Out of the box functionality now is the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it's going to put a lot of these third-party intranet in a box companies out of business. I'm just saying they have to evolve, and they're basically selling sometimes a whole platform, but many times a series of web parts.
Yeah, I think some of them you see them seeing. That this has been true in tech in general. That as platforms grow in capabilities, vendors on top sort of have to grow too. And so you see people doing things like intranets targeted for sales forces or law offices,
Yes.
and things we won't really do in the product. And so as we raise the bar on our UI, one of the things we did last SharePoint conference in Las Vegas is we announced the Home Site Partner Program, where 15 of the vendors who do these intranet in a box digital workplace solutions, they committed to build on top of our latest work, because we wanted to signal to customers they weren't going to continue to hide the SharePoint user experience.
Right, or the classic,
Yeah.
the SharePoint classic.
Yeah.
You have to give them a reason to upgrade.
Yeah, no, and we want to catalyze those partners adding more value, and it's been great to see them support it.
We have a lot of people watching this, Jeff, and if there's one thing that you want to leave them with today on the future of this digital workplace, what do they need to know for the future besides, staying abreast on the latest and greatest?
Oh, you stole it, because that was going to be my thing. That it is like deep empathy. It is hard in tech today. Vendors are not shipping every 2 years like when you and I joined the industry. All the products from all the vendors are getting better every day. And so the good news is you don't have to run them all. You should move to the cloud, whatever vendor you pick. Hopefully you pick us, but there are other vendors. And do invest the time, at least a couple of times a year, to catch up with what we're doing, because more often than not, it's going to surprise you. Things that we announced in the last few weeks, Project Cortex.
Yes.
We tried to give people several months heads up in advance of that being generally available, what's coming, so they can do their homework and get up to speed and think about building an intelligent intranet. So I would say, leverage the fact that we'll run the servers for you, but use that time to do your homework about what's coming from us and other vendors and build a plan.
If you fail to plan to fail?
Yes, yeah.
There you go.
Just like in running a marathon. If you try to run a marathon without any training, you're going to be in serious trouble.
It is crawl, walk, run, the story of my life. Having run 11 marathons now, and Jeff and I, Tale of Two Cities. I'm a 5.5 hour guy, and what are you?
About 4.
All right, yeah, so, Tale of Two Cities. Jeff, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Jeff, glad to do it.
Really
It's
super
always
fun
to
catching
catch up.
ESPC 19, one of the absolute best conferences this year especially that I've ever attended. Thanks everyone for watching, and have a great day.